Imagine waking up, unable to move, with shadows creeping from the corners of your room. This isn't just a nightmare, it's reality. Frozen in bed, staring into the abyss of an open closet, what would you do if something stared back? When sleep becomes your enemy, and the night hides unspeakable terrors, survival isn't guaranteed. A restless night. It began like any other night. Exhaustion from a long day had settled over me, and I could feel the weight of sleep pulling me under. Yet, as I lay in bed, a strange unease crept into the edges of my consciousness. The room was quiet, almost unnaturally so. The gentle hum of the ceiling fan and the occasional distant sound of passing cars should have been comforting, but instead, they seemed muted, as though the room itself was holding its breath. Sleep came quickly, but it wasn't the peaceful escape I had hoped for. Instead, an oppressive heaviness filled the air, making each breath feel like an effort. I brushed it off as mere exhaustion, unaware of the terror that awaited me. The dream was unlike any I had experienced before. In it, I was lying in the same bed, in the same room, but everything felt slightly off. A chill hung in the air, and the comforting glow of my nightlight was replaced by an unsettling dimness. Suddenly, a cold hand gripped my ankle and began dragging me downwards. I struggled, kicking and thrashing, but my movements felt sluggish as though I were underwater. The figure pulling me wasn't stable, it kept shifting. One moment it was a sleek black cat with glowing yellow eyes, and the next, a shadowy humanoid figure with elongated limbs. Each transformation brought a new wave of terror. My screams were muffled, swallowed by the oppressive silence. The awakening. When I woke, I wasn't sure if I had escaped the nightmare or stepped into another one. The room was freezing cold, far colder than it should have been. My body was drenched in sweat, and my heart pounded like a drum. I tried to sit up, but my body wouldn't obey. Panic set in as I realized I was completely paralyzed. My head was tilted to the side, forcing my gaze to fixate on the open closet across the room. The darkness within the closet seemed alive, pulsing with a sinister energy. Every instinct screamed at me to move, to run, but my body remained frozen. My mind raced with thoughts of imminent danger, each more horrifying than the last. The closet door was ajar, its shadows spilling into the room like a living entity. My gut told me that something was in there, watching, waiting. Then, I heard it, a low, guttural voice that whispered my name. "I know you're awake," it rasped, dragging the words out with a sinister glee. The voice was accompanied by a cold, mocking laugh. It wasn't the kind of laughter that came from joy, it was predatory, filled with malice. My breath hitched, and tears pricked at the corners of my eyes. Whatever was in that closet, it wasn't human. The voice. Time seemed to stretch endlessly. The voice continued, whispering dark truths and mocking my fear. "You can't escape," it said, its tone dripping with malice. Each word felt like a weight pressing down on me, suffocating and relentless. My paralysis only heightened my vulnerability. My mind screamed for my body to move, but it was as though I were a prisoner within myself. I could feel the presence inching closer, its malevolence palpable. The shadows in the closet seemed to shift, growing darker, denser, as though they were preparing to consume me. Breaking free. Just when I thought I couldn't endure another moment, something snapped. A surge of energy coursed through me, breaking the paralysis. I leapt out of bed, my heart racing, and slammed the closet door shut. My hands trembled as I switched on every light in the room, banishing the shadows that had taunted me. The relief was overwhelming, but it was fleeting. The memory of the voice and the oppressive presence lingered, haunting me even in the light. I sat on the edge of my bed, trying to steady my breathing, but the fear refused to release its grip. The aftermath. Sleep was impossible after that. I sat in my brightly lit room, clutching a blanket around me, jumping at every creak and groan of the old house. The events replayed in my mind, vivid and unrelenting. The figure's shifting form, the icy cold, the paralyzing fear, it all felt too real to dismiss as a simple nightmare. In the days that followed, I became consumed by the need to understand what had happened. I read about sleep paralysis, its connection to vivid dreams, and the phenomena of shadow figures. But no explanation felt sufficient. What I experienced was more than a trick of the mind. It was tangible, invasive, and deeply personal. Seeking answers, I started speaking to others, hoping to find someone who had experienced something similar. Stories of sleep paralysis abounded, but none matched the intensity of what I had endured. Most people described a pressure on their chest or fleeting visions. What I had encountered was different. It was intelligent, malevolent, and persistent. The second encounter, weeks later, I experienced it again. This time, I was more aware, determined to fight against the paralysis. But the entity returned, more menacing than before. Its voice was louder, its presence more oppressive. It whispered dark truths and laughed when I tried to resist. Each encounter left me more shaken, more convinced that this was no ordinary sleep paralysis. Acceptance. Over time, I began to accept that this might be something beyond my understanding. Whether it was a figment of my subconscious or a genuine encounter with the paranormal, it had left an indelible mark on me. To this day, I sleep with the closet door firmly shut and a nightlight casting away the shadows. If you enjoy chilling stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.